We have some Pokemon reprint news coming. We have a little bit of drama. We're going to talk about all of that in this video. Should you be hopeful? Should you not be hopeful? What sets are getting reprinted? We're going to break that down starting right now. And if you missed it, very recently, we had Brian from PokeNE on for a stream. And during that, we ended up talking about a tweet that went out and here's the tweet. We could talk about it. PokeDeals nerd Danny was talking about these products being confirmed for a reprint. And when we were talking about it, Brian, who has multiple distribution access, said that he hadn't heard anything and it seemed kind of fishy. But now it turns out it looks like it might be real. And we're hearing a little bit of conflicting information. Also, Brian was quick to apologize, very professional, handled it like a champ because he made a video about this. But anyways, so Paldea Evolved booster boxes, Obsidian Flames booster boxes, Twilight Masquerade booster boxes, Surging Sparks booster boxes, and Paldean Fates bundles. Now, the interesting part is where this is where a little bit of the conflicting information is coming, and it comes from Pokemart USA. If you're not familiar with him, doesn't post as much content anymore, but a great YouTube channel as well. Does a weekly live stream. But this is what he had to say. I can confirm the news that reprints are coming. The recently leaked news came from an event where distribution reps were told by Pokemon to expect reprints for Paldea Evolved booster boxes, Twilight Masquerade booster boxes, and Surging Sparks booster boxes. So a little bit different than the first list that we got, right? Just missing off the booster bundles and the Obsidian Flames. So close enough. And I would say, these are three sets, of the bigger sets, right? That, could potentially need a reprint. But let's talk about what's a reprint going to do? Is a reprint going to even do anything for these sets? And that's what we're going to talk about. If you look at where, Paldea Evolved booster boxes are at currently, we're at 220 225 ish a booster box on TCG Player. You got the listed median price at 250, so it kind of seems like potentially these are going to continue to rise. However, you got the news of the reprint. So, in the past when we saw reprints, depending on the size and depending on the market condition, these would drop. It would drop the price of booster boxes. And I feel like now, there's a lot of things to consider. The market is insanely hot right now. Okay, it kind of seems like whatever reprint we get will get instantly gobbled up. And even if there's a dip, like see this little dip right here where it went from 200 to 191, it's gonna seem just like a little blip on the radar. And like when you zoom out on a chart in the long term, the further you get, these little blips look like kind of nothing. Um, and so potentially we could just be seeing a blip. Also, something that I think is important to talk about is Pokemon just recently they released a statement saying that they're ramping up printing, specifically talking about Prismatic Evolution's product. Now, if you didn't catch that stream with Brian from PokeNE, there's some insight to be had there from somebody who has distribution access and kind of has a little bit of insider information on and his theories on how far Pokemon is out. I believe he was saying around like 7 months out is kind of like how far out they are on if they need to make an adjustment. We're not going to see those adjustments till like way later in the year. So if they're starting to print the prismatic evolution stuff now, they're ramping that up, they're fitting that in however there works. Like nobody really knows exactly how it works at the Pokemon printing facility, but things are going to be affected, and like they can't print everything, and I just have a hard time believing that these sets right here, that these are going to be particularly very large. And even if they are fairly large, I feel like the market is just going to eat them up. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree in the comments. Like let me know. Like it's just going to be a blip on the radar is what I feel like. And like right here, even say we had a bigger drop and like Paldea drops to like 200 a box, I feel like it's just going to be just a matter of time till it just climbs right back up for Paldea. Now, the other aspect of reprints that can play a factor as well that you should be aware of is it can affect singles because you're getting more product on the market, you're getting more supply, right? More supply on the singles. And this is something, at least with Paldea, that I had talked about a long time ago, and it's not a guarantee, but print runs can have an effect on card prices as well. Say that this newer, however big it is, right? We don't know. I don't think I don't think it's going to be too crazy. But say we have a print run where the Magikarp here and the Tyranitar and the Raichu, it's like, these illustration rares that are hard to grade. Say they're pretty clean. They're cleaner. We got better quality control happening. I feel like that's not going to be the case because they're going to be, I feel like they're rushing to do all this stuff. But that can affect singles and just the supply. The supply of singles to potentially hit the market can affect things to a certain extent. Once again, it depends how much is getting printed. It depends on the market. Like, there's a lot, that's going to go into play here. But that's why, sealed, the supply is always going down. Even when they reintroduce new supply, it's getting opened. And then eventually over time, the supply goes down and the price goes up. And that's just the name of the game as far as the sealed side goes. So, you got your Magikarp here, obviously the big dog from the set. The Tyranitars are really nice. You got some nice IRs here. And then, there's a lot of SIRs that are still kind of cheap, like the Skeleturge and some other cards like the starter evolutions. It's a great set. So, and, being at this price point, it kind of makes sense, right? For Paldea Evolved. Then when we look at Twilight Masquerade, it's right on the heels of Paldea as far as booster box price. Got market at 221 versus Paldea at 223. So they're right there neck and neck. Okay. I do think that Paldea Evolved overall is a better set, but a lot of people like that Greninja from Twilight a lot. So Twilight Masquerade, I mean, you can see the gains, right? It sold out on the Pokemon Center and then it started to run. And that's where leading to where we're at now. So, this is another box that this one, makes a little bit more sense. Oops, excuse me. Being a later set, right? SV06 versus, Paldea, albeit, expensive and popular. A lot of people speculated that we weren't going to see a lot of the early, like, I want to say like SV1 through 4 reprints. So that is interesting if that ends up being included, which it seems like, people are saying it is. So on the Twilight Masquerade side, 220 a box. You got the Greninja. The Greninja just recently passing $400 a card. And, you got your Eevee. Your Perrin went up recently, too. Looks like that one cracked 100. You got your Eevee, which is a really nice illustration rare. And this is a set where, in my opinion, there's a lot of great, nice cards. It just doesn't quite have as much depth as Paldea Evolved, if I'm being honest, for me, personally, as a collector, right? You might disagree. I like this Growlithe card a lot, too. Infernape's nice, and Pinsir, nice and cheap card. I do like this Pinsir a lot as well. But this is what we're looking at for Twilight Masquerade, right? You can see the set as a whole. I do think I like pulling up the set, the card list here, so you can kind of visualize it. I do think it helps just put things a little bit in perspective. A few nice illustrations, like the Chansey card as well from the set. So also too, of these sets, we got we'll talk about the three that Pokemon USA was confirming. You got your Twilight, your Paldea, and then Surging. Of these three sets, what do you think, leave in the comments, needed the reprint more? I think most people would probably argue it's Surging Sparks, considering it's the most expensive, right? We're at 263. Listed median price is at 280. So it looks like these boxes are just going to continue to climb. We'll see if people dump their boxes off of this news. So that's something that we need to talk about as well. If you have these boxes, okay, depending on your price, like depending on where you bought, okay, I do understand that, there are people buying here in the 240s and the 250s, okay? Depending on where you bought and depending on what your plan is, okay? What your plan is for your boxes. I wouldn't necessarily be worried and I wouldn't be dumping my boxes because of the reprint. I don't think that the reprints are really going to drop the box prices that much, or and if they do, it's not going to be for that long. Okay, so just keep that in mind for a lot of this, right? But if you're looking for like a quicker flip, that's where things kind of vary. But if you're on a long-term timetable, 5, 10, plus years down the road is kind of how long you plan on holding these boxes, then if there's a dip along the way, it's not going to matter if you're fearful of a dip. I feel like, once again, it's just going to be a blip on the radar currently. I just don't have enough confidence that they can print enough of all of these sets to actually squash this and continue to print the new sets when they know they need to print more of the new sets, right? And so it's just one of those things where I don't think they can do it currently. Maybe later half of the year is a different story, and they finally started to catch up, kind of like what Brian was saying. We're going to be like a 6-7 month delay, and then they're going to flood the market with stuff. That seems like more of a realistic possibility. But Surging Sparks, shooting up big after release. Even before release, it started shooting up pretty massive, right? So one of the first big successful booster boxes, and also something to, this Pikachu card here. A lot of people didn't like this Pikachu, or maybe they're like, the other Pikachus are nicer, but this Pikachu card has held this value extremely well since release. It fluctuated a little bit. It did shoot up and then it came back down just a little, and it's just really hovered like super solidly in this like mid to $400 range. So once again, depending on print size, maybe this Pikachu card comes down if we see a new supply, an influx of cards, right? But this card's difficult to pull. The other thing that you guys have to understand too is with sets like this, like Surging Sparks, even Paldea Evolved, they're already expensive, right? And even if they come down a little, they're still expensive. They're not always going to be ripped, by your average person as much due to the expensiveness of the box, right? We've seen this with Prismatic Evolutions, obviously, right? It's way up there. Everything's really expensive. It came out the gate expensive. It was expensive on pre-order. And I would argue that it's probably for the average person, if if you're even able to get your hands on the product, it's probably the one of those sets that's open the least out of any of the modern sets. I would argue, because I know me, a lot of my friends who have Prismatic, we did open a tiny bit together. And we don't even have that much, right? But of what we do have, it's like, well, I might as well keep it sealed because it's so expensive. It just doesn't feel right to rip the packs when they're that expensive. And so, this is where, if you're getting into Surging Sparks now, all of these boxes, really, Paldea, Twilight, Surging Sparks, all of these now, it just kind of all feels that way. And looking at the set too, Twilight, or Surging rather, you got your Pikachu, you got a nice Latias that's over around $250. The Milotic's around $150. Hydreigon's just under 100. You got your gold Pikachu here. The Latios is really nice. I like the Skarmory a lot. There's these other IRs right here, Skarmory and Braviary. Like these ones a lot. These are really nice illustration rares. This feels a fun one too. So this has the big chasers, and then it has a few like Lexer. Oh, and the Cerulege. The Cerulege is a really nice card. I really like the art. That Pokemon's really growing on me. I got the Prismatic Cerulege's amazing art. So that's what we have for for these reprints. Now, like we said earlier, there was a talk of Obsidian Flames, right? So that doesn't mean that this can't happen either, right? Obsidian Flames booster boxes and Paldean Fates. And recently we talked about Paldean Fates booster boxes. If you didn't catch that video, those booster bundles are like right there with 151 price-wise, right? So Paldean Fates is a popular set. But for the sake of this video, we'll pull up Obsidian Flames just to take a look. I didn't have it pulled up beforehand, but we will pull it up real quick and we'll talk about Obsidian Flames. Now, not as expensive as some of these other boxes you can see. And a lot of people early on, if you're newer, didn't really like this set when it came out. Charizard Fatigue, didn't really like it, right? But nevertheless, we've seen this box rise. It's up 46%. It's just around $190 you can see right here for the booster box, right? So probably, I would have prioritized the other sets over Obsidian, given the price points here. Now, what you're going to notice about Obsidian when we look at the set here is that we'll go to product type cards and we'll see everything. So this is one where there's not really very much value in the set as far as high dollar cards, and there is this Charizard. I do like this Charizard, by the way. I think it's fun. It's a nice art, right? And Obsidian has some great artworks, right? The Cleffa, I mean, look at the Cleffa in the number 2 spot. It's a stunning IR. Ninetales, absolutely stunning IR. I like the Gloom IR. Gold Charizard is not really for me. The Scizor, absolutely stunning. I like Houndour a lot too. And then, the Pidgey ones are kind of the ones that, for me, I kind of overlook a little bit. The Lechonk is a fun one too. I like this. He ate too much and he's sleeping. And Larvitar's a fine one as well. But that's kind of all they have. There's just not any big bangers of the set, so it's not really like a single price. You're not really looking a ton for single prices to come down. I mean, I'm sure everyone is, right? Every collector would love for the single prices to come down because you want to get your cards cheaper, but it makes so when you start to look at this list and you see that Obsidian is left out compared to this list from Eli, you go, okay, well, I might see that. Kind of makes a little bit more sense. Maybe the other sets, the boxes are more expensive, right? So print those ones. But then the last thing is the Paldean Fates, which we can pull up as well. Paldean Fates, like I said, we talked about this recently, but the Paldean Fates, this set, it has the Bubble Mew, very popular, iconic artwork of the era. And then, this Charizard 2 right here, albeit it's kind of like, it's a different color palette, but I do think it's kind of similar to the Obsidian one, our art style, just a little bit. But this one's over $200, so that's the difference with this set. You got 2 really big chase cards out of this set, and the Gardevoir is a really nice card too, as well in person, and then tons of baby shinies that are super fun to open. It's a really great set to open, so that one would kind of make sense too, for me to see getting reprinted. It's a fun set, right? And things are getting expensive on it. We can look over to the sealed product and we can see, let's just check in what the booster bundles are at, just for the sake of this video so we can stay up with it. Booster bundles are at $57. Most recent solds, though, we're seeing a few in the 60s. So starting to become a $60 booster bundle for 6 packs. So, $10 per pack there on the booster bundles. So, I can see that being, and there's other sets too. Like, I mean, SV base is getting expensive. Everything's getting expensive. And they can't reprint everything is the moral of the story. Is they can't reprint everything. And they definitely, they can't reprint everything. And it seems like they can't even print the newer sets enough to demand, let alone the older sets. So, that's where I go, I don't know if this is going to even really do that much, but we could be wrong. We definitely could be wrong, and we'll have to track that as it comes and as it happens. And if you enjoyed this video, if you're 18 minutes in and you enjoyed it and you're not subscribed, do yourself a favor and hit the subscribe button. I'll let you guys know when these reprints hit and like kind of what happens, because I do daily Pokemon collecting and investing content, so I would really appreciate your support if you want to subscribe. Also leave me a comment letting me know your thoughts on all of this, the thoughts on the reprints, if you were sipping the tea on the drama, a little bit of the drama that was unfolding. I don't think it was like too big of drama, but it was interesting to see. So yeah, let me know, and if you have any predictions too, throw your predictions down there on where you think, like, how much are these going to drop, if these reprints come and hit, what is it going to actually do to the market? I think it's going to be little to nothing, and if it is something, I think it's going to just be here just for a minute, right? It's going to be a little dip, and then, maybe we stagnate for a little bit, and then we start moving again, as far as the sealed goes. That's just kind of my take on it. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. And remember, it was never a phase.